gonna prove? Who will be bruised?
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lore Reloaded. We're going to give it a quick second to see how everything is going on. Make sure you can hear me all right. Let me check, make sure it's all right here. And I'm just going to give it a second and check it there. But while I do, I want to say hello to everybody. Welcome. I am James, your Lore Master of the Night on Lore Reloaded. Yep, sounds good. Great. And, couple things. Check me out at twitter.com/Lore Reloaded. I will include a link in the description right now. Not description, in the chat. I currently have a poll going on for a video that's coming up quite soon, and I'm curious about your guys' opinion on it, which is, does a more progressive universe have romantic relationships that are open and ethically non-monogamous? It'll kind of come back once you guys see the video, but it's right there. Check it out. Feel free to vote should you be watching this video on demand. Probably too late for you to vote, but feel free to leave your opinions in the comments below. Also, check me out twitch.tv/Lore Reloaded, where I have all kinds of fun playing all kinds of games, but generally you guys want me to play Star Trek Online all the time, 24/7. With that out of the way, let's say hi to a couple people. We got the Evil Scotsman, 100% American Buffalo. Not just like 95%, but the full 100%. We got Sherlock Holmes up in the house. Jaeger Bomb, that is always fun. Not a banned account. That's a good sign right there. Star Brother. J Wiggs always in the house. Zontar, it is always fun. Fun to see Zontar. Amanda B up in the hizzy. As well as quite a few other people. Not a banned account says, does the goatee mean you're Mirror Lore Reloaded? No goatee means I'm the Mirror Lore Reloaded. I usually always have a goatee. I'm just not good with shaving. And, yeah. So, let's go ahead and just get into it. Let's break it down, as it were. We're going to be talking about Broccoli today, of course. Everybody's beloved sexual deviant, for all intents and purposes. And again, generally what'll happen is we'll talk about the subject, the person put on trial, for about anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes, and then you guys get me off track, as you are wont to do. But when it comes to Broccoli, I really do enjoy his character overall. And I think the reason is because he comes off as an underdog, right? So when we first meet Barclay, he is someone that no one really wants to work with. And honestly, it highlights how much of a jerk Riker is. These episodes made me hate Riker as a character, at least when it came to how he interacted with Stockley. I really just could not... He was not a good officer in that. But I also think that the character is somewhat relatable with his holo addiction. Because I think depending on the way you want to look at it, the holo addiction could be a porn addiction, or it could be a gaming addiction, and even an escapism addiction, really. And so to see him overcome that, but not only overcome that, but when he moves throughout the series to become one of the more pivotal characters, especially when he helps out Voyager, is sorry if that's creating noise, is it's really endearing to see that when Droxley finally overcomes his stuff. But I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts. So when we take a look at it in TNG, I almost wonder how someone of this caliber even got into Starfleet, right? Um, he wasn't good at his job, and he used the holodeck as a form of escapism. You would think these things existed in Starfleet Academy, because I believe he was an officer. Now, you guys can correct me on that. And I'm going to take a look. I need to trade these things over for you. But you guys can give me your opinion on it as well. Let's see. Reginald Stockley is my fave. A Trek hero, says Jay Wiggs. Well, that's cool. Barclay is fun because he has flaws to overcome, character progression, quite a lot of other people. That includes me, says Vile Mike. Vile Mike, welcome. Welcome, good sir. Let's see. Jeff Shapiro, are you related to the other Shapiro? Because if you are, that means you're rich. And I would enjoy being your friend. He's the socially awkward but intelligent guy at work who no one wants to work with but can get a lot done if you just work around his social shortcomings. Do you think maybe, and I could be way off on this, because is he socially awkward, or do you think there's mental deficiencies there? What are your opinions on that? I don't think there's mental deficiencies because he overcomes them, especially in Voyager. But I'd be curious your guys' opinions. Zontar helping out the channel. As you guys know, this channel is supported and wholly thrives on viewers like you, Patreon, and of course Super Chat. Zontar Barclay showed classism within the ranks. So you don't necessarily have to give another Super Chat, but I'd like you to expand on that when you say classism, because I don't know that I necessarily consider it classism, but maybe I could be talked into it. So when you talk about classism, walk me through it. Shapiro again says he was good at his job. He just developed a holodeck addiction as he socially didn't fit in and couldn't date, if I had to guess. And I really think, so there's two characters when we look at, because really when you consider Shoxley, you really see how he brings out the flaws in the other characters. And I brought up the fact about Riker. Riker looks like a complete joke. A jerk. A complete jerk. Whereas Deanna Troi, in my opinion, looks like a complete joke. She doesn't appear to help him at all. One of the things I hate about Star Trek The Next Generation, one of the many things. Tyler Ruddy becoming a lore master. One of the many things that concern me is that Deanna never was, in my opinion, written that well of a counselor. She didn't really seem to help when she had the ability to, and her counseling was subpar. I don't think she did a lot of favors for Barclay. Zontar, I say classism in that there's a clear divide between those in command positions and those outside of command positions, an upper class and a lower class. I could really see that, honestly. I think you could even see it to a degree in what was that one episode? And we've brought it up before. Lower Decks, I think, is what it was called. I think, where you get to see it from those who were like ensigns and lieutenant junior grades, and it wasn't the A team that was brought on, right? Michael Eggert actually showing why Deanna Troi wasn't doing the best job. She secretly wanted him. True. So many people in Star Trek are perfected archetypes. Shoxley is not, and makes for a breath of fresh air. I do think that a lot of people could probably relate with his social anxiety. And even more than we would like to accept, would relate with his escapism, right? So to kind of expand on that, I think more people honestly will not have the best interactions at work or at school, and then will go and to go to their computers and whatnot and play World of Warcraft and be this heroic orc or heroic human, or they'll play on like mushes or things or muds or whatever game, and they'll pretend to be these heroes and then have to go back to their real lives. And you can do that through a lot of mediums. You can do that through reading books or watching TV, or at least relate or pretend or leave, right? And so I think that if it's social anxiety, it's probably a lot more common in our society than we like to believe, which is why he's so relatable. And again, he's the underdog. We want him to succeed, and everybody's just being a complete jerk to him. Even Picard, who for some reason takes stupid pills and says what Riker does. And again, Riker should have been dressed down 10 times from Friday. He should have been, it should have been addressed in a big way. Not a band account. Barclay plus Tilly, perfect couple or perfect storm. So what is it? Barley? Barley is the new shipping. Someone should draw or do a Photoshop of Barclay and Tilly, and we'll have our new Barlily or Barley. I'll put it in a video. If someone does it and it's done well, I'll put it in a video. Speaking of classes, what is up with the lack of enlisted representation in the Next Generation and Voyager? Here's an interesting piece. In the Next Generation, I cannot find an enlisted person except for special video, except in special episodes such as the Drumhead. General episodes, especially in Season 1 and Season 2, you only see officers. One of the reasons why I use officers is and when I'm doing the videos. So when I do breakdowns of videos, I'll say they have, 100 or 1,000 officers or whatever. Because it can be officers or you can be non-com officers, right? And that's my way of trying to cheat a little bit, because in the Next Generation, we don't see a ton of enlisted unless there's a specific episode, and there's not many of those. Generally, every person you see, we more see enlisted in the original series and in Deep Space Nine, but even in Deep Space Nine, a lot of them are just officers. 198 of 505. Miles was not enlisted in Season 1 and Season 2 of the Next Generation. You can go and look. He wears either Ensign or Lieutenant Pips, good friends. Lieutenant or Ensign Pips. He only became enlisted. I don't even know that he was ever enlisted in the Next Generation on the Pips that he wore. But he only became enlisted when he hit Deep Space Nine. Now, you could call that a continuity gaffe or a robe malfunction. But go take a look when you see him, especially when he is the helmsman. He is wearing Officer Pips. Because that was one of the first things that I looked at too. I was like, yeah, that's the first thing I thought. Miles O'Brien, he's a NCO, right? He's an enlisted chap, but not in the Next Generation. Orataka Tinga. Barclay was clearly an engineering savant and was delayed social development-wise, which led him to retreat into holodecks and shadows. Yeah, and again, I think that I think they had a great opportunity, but they did also try to play it off as laughs. I think they tried to, or if they didn't try to play it off as laughs, they tried to continue to make him such an underdog that it made the A-team look horrendous. Again, when it comes to Riker, when it comes to even Picard and Deanna Troi, all three of them just come out just looking horrific. And if we're being honest and we're looking at the holo addiction, when we're breaking that down, what he did, I wonder if any normal military would allow him to keep his job after that. Literally, consider this. So, Shockley decided to take all of his friends and make them into characters. He turned them into sexual objects, and not only sexual objects, but he also turned them into weaklings in the males, right? And if you had a officer, not just because Barclay was an officer who created a video game or something like that, and use the images of other officers and turned all the women into sexual objects and all the men into weak, infantile people, then what exactly would happen to him? I can't now. Maybe they would be kept on, or they would just get yelled at, like what happened with Barclay. But honestly, I can't see them keeping their jobs. Now, for those who are saying Miles O'Brien was an enlisted officer, as I have stated multiple times, I am aware that Miles O'Brien is an enlisted officer. However, in The Next Generation, he didn't wear enlisted officer pips, which are definitively different than those of officers. He wore the pips of, again, it was either an ensign or a lieutenant JG. You don't, if you have an issue with that, your problem is with the writing and the continuity, not with me. I agree that even in The Next Generation, he was an enlisted officer, but according to The Next Generation continuity, he was an officer. Whatever. I mean, it's not like Star Trek is known for... it's not like Star Trek doesn't make continuity gaffes. It's fine. Or retcons things. It's not the biggest problem in the world. Zachriel says, I think the showrunners didn't know what made officers versus enlisted. They seem really unclear on what makes up a ship's crew or how the Navy even works. Then they share something with me, my good friend. But let me tell you this. If I was writing... I would do my darndest to try to figure out. I would do my darndest to try to figure out what the different naval ranks are, and how to delineate, especially when you have the original series that clearly delineated between them. So anyway. Not sure what Barclay did wrong. He didn't harm anyone. It was all just a private fantasy, says Entertainment Nihilist. So let's break that down. I think that it's an invasion of privacy, especially with a holodeck. And I think that it is, maybe not invasion of privacy, but an invasion of person. I don't think people have a right to take your image and use it without your consent. And I think doing that, maybe it's an invasion of privacy, but doing that is some form of invasion, an invasion of self. So I'm not sure where we would go with that. Again, for me, I would think that he would be kicked out of any military that caught him doing that. Now that you could say this was more progressive and they just wanted to fix him, right? And that's why it went through it. I think that I wonder if, so let me ask you this. I really do like Barclay. I think Barclay is a wondrous character. I love what he becomes in The Next Generation. I think it's wonderful. I really do. I'm saying that non-ironically. Do you think what we saw in TNG with his holo addiction somewhat diminishes his character? Because some would call that sexual deviancy. And so as a sexual deviant, would that have negatively impacted it? What are your guys' opinion? Enlisted crewmen and petty officers' rank make up the majority of ship's crew, says Jay Wiggs. Okay, fair enough. Not a banned account. Look at the recent USMC scandal over pictures of female Marines being circulated against their will. I mean, that's a good point. And I don't want to take it too much into the real life. I don't want to necessarily, but that is similar, I think. It's taking someone's image and using it in a way they may not like, right? And so is that something that would be allowed in a military, right? Kura on DS9 certainly had issues with her hololikeness being captured by Quark, sure. If Barclay would be punished for the holodeck incident, it would probably be for disrespect of the chain of command. Okay. Terry Weaver, it's the same as downloading a person's picture from their social media and something over it. I disagree, Terry. I think that it's not just that. And Terry, I think this is where the problem is, and this is where we will have our disagreement. It's not just keeping it in your memory. Hell, it's not even just taking a picture of them. It's taking their picture, turning it into a model, turning it into an entity, a digital entity, and then forcing that entity to do what you want it to do as if it was acting as the person, but for every whim that you want. So it's not just downloading a picture. It's not just thinking about what would happen in your head. It is literally, it is literally forcing someone's image to do what you want, right? And so I don't think that's okay. And I think that it feels like there would be laws against that, though I don't know, to be honest with you. We only had a problem because it was made public. That's it. We all do that in our head. There's a difference. I think so. Let's get into this. Is there a difference between creating a holo program and forcing that holo program to do what you want? A physical representation. Is there a difference between that and what's being done in your head? And if there is, should there be a punishment in the 24th century? I don't know. Not a Band's account says, Quark doing this to Major Cura's image was considered so repulsive she was allowed to carte blanche to sabotage the private holosuite. There's a culture against what Barclay did. Yeah, and I do think that we even see in the Next Generation, that episode, what he did was definitely not considered okay within the culture. And again, if it's so against the culture, I don't see how they don't have blocks against this. You're telling me you can't program the computer to not use images of other people without their consent? Like if he's like, hey, make an image of Deanna Troi, and then the computer says, please hold, and it asks Deanna Troi, is it okay? Or it alerts her, or it just turns it completely off and says it can't be done, and you have to proactively get her to do it. And we you know, and you kind of see that problem with Geordi. Remember, Geordi created that engineer and then fell in love with the engineer and whatnot, and then he kept it. Now that was a little creepy, keeping the image of her, right? So, you know, there is a culture against it, but wouldn't there be rules against it, right? So would it be wrong to think about this, or was it when he crafted a program to realize his fantasy when he overstepped? Asked David Meeks. I think when he created a program, it became wrong. I sincerely do. I think when he created a program and then forced that program to do his will, it became wrong. So, Jeff Shapiro, for personal use, I don't see what he did wrong. Just when discovered, it puts him in an embarrassing situation. LaForge found himself in an embarrassing situation for the same thing. I think it's wrong to create an image of somebody and then force that image to do whatever you wanted it to do. Yeah. How many billions of people exist? How could you not make a holodeck character that looks like someone? Yeah, there's a difference between making a holodeck character that looks like someone and making a holodeck character that's of a crewmate and then forcing that crewmate's holo program to do sexual favors. Not a Banned account, given $2 helping out the channel, says fun debate. I'm not going to look up what deep fakes are. That keeps coming up. I don't think that I'm gonna discuss that. I imagine it's a case where it is illegal in most places and taboo, but it's a fairly common thing. Can't police everywhere. Certainly not a CD bar in a far-off way station. Sure, there's a difference between a CD bar and the flagship of the Federation, though. I think we could agree on that, right? So. And Disappointed Optimist wants to talk about Barclay becoming a god. What specifically about that would you like to talk about? how would he, quote unquote, become what about him becoming a god is interesting to you? No, how do I not know what deep fakes is? I don't know. I guess I'm just, I live under a pillow. I'm not going to look it up. No. I'm not going to look that up in the slightest. And I don't want anybody who's watching this to look that up either. Yeah. Should we be proud that Lore Reloaded does not know what deepfakes are? I've never heard that before. I think I'm a bit confused, says Sky Bennett. I don't think I've ever seen an episode where Barclay has created a holo program of crewmates for sexual purposes. All right, so are you telling me the episode, and I forget the name of the episode, Sky Bennett. I'm sure someone's going to be able to point it out. By the way, there are 83 people watching and only 22 thumbs up. What the hell is going on with that? Are you telling me that you haven't seen the episode where he creates and puts Deanna Troy and I think Beverly Crusher in yoga outfits, making them, inferring heavily that this is more than just them being in yoga outfits and them fawning over him? It really leads one to believe that there's some I want to call it sexual deviancy. I really do. You're really saying that was all just innocent on the up and up? Is that what you're really trying to tell me? By the way, guys, hit that thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. I mean, if you like the channel, then hit the thumbs up. If you don't like the channel, hit the thumbs down. And if you hit the thumbs down, it actually hurts the channel. Nobody will ever see it. So definitely remember to do that. But if you like the channel, hit the thumbs up because it'll help the channel. It's definitely not the fact that no matter which one you hit, I win. Because I definitely lose. If you hate the channel, hit the thumbs down. The unincorporated man gives a perfect explanation for why VR is evil and needs to be banned for the sake of society. I don't know who that is. Is that a YouTuber? He put them in late perioded French dresses. Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry, I called them yoga outfits. They look like, from what I can remember, they look like yoga outfits. I could be wrong on that. That's fine. I'm not going to... Okay, guys, I'm not going to look up deep fakes. I've been convinced that is not my jam. So you don't have to worry about it. So how many great works of art are inspired by real people? How many paints should we take down because the artist used a woman he'd known with cleavage showing? Is that the exact same? Are you seriously trying to say that when Michael created all of his great works of art, when, Da Vinci didn't create any... thing like that. When all of the great artists create their great art, pornographic great art, that completely justifies having deep fakes, which apparently is all the rage, and downloading and creating 3D models of all your best friends and fellow officers, and making them have all kinds of sex or looking sexy or being submissive to you. Is that are you really trying to bring those two things together? Really. Jordan Ashcroft. In the 24th century, they have different morals and values than we do. It may not have been sexual at all. Yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely wasn't sexual. Definitely not at all. They weren't trying to appeal to a 21st century audience, or maybe a 20th century when it came out, audience that was definitely sexualized and trying to appeal to that. Definitely not. And beyond that, it was definitely not clear that he was, shall we say, learning more about the Beta Z culture. The great master pay for their models. Okay. Well, that's true. I don't know if they did or not, but that would I think that would be fair. Yeah. Let's see. The difference is consent. Subjects of artists pose. Barclay stole their license. I generally would agree. I don't know if Michael paid for the model or even had a model or how that worked. Generally in common time, in these times they would. And let me say this. So I'm doing a video that was requested by the Polyfam Council. I brought that up before. They've always supported the channel, been big supporters, so and asked me to do it. So why not? I'll do requests for people ever so often. And I'm looking at love and things like that within Star Trek. And ironically, everything we see is generally, well, at first blush, everything you see within Star Trek seems to be a Christian setting, where most is monogamous, serial monogamous, and you see, especially within TNG, kind of one unit type deal. Now, people are freaking out. Just give me a second. But when you break down the nuance to it, especially in the original series and DS9 and Enterprise, you really see that people are still monogamous, and generally serial monogamous, but marriage is rarely brought into it, and there is even a pretty interesting and good look at polyamory in Enterprise. And in the original series, with the free love and the going around having multiple partners, and those partners even having kids and not having to take care of the kid, and go and do your own thing, and the parent who wants to keep the kid keeps the kid. It's an interesting breakdown about how they do it, and generally from a nuanced perspective, it's pretty progressive, but they make them serial monogamous, which I think is interesting. Mostly, again, not a band account has to go to sleep. Take my money, I will take your money. But and again, there are obviously examples that you can show that aren't right. Like Kirk would be an example of someone who is not serial monogamous. But most characters are serial monogamists, not necessarily getting married. And those who aren't really looked down upon, and it's you can go and really do and be with whomever you want. Now that's not getting into that's not getting into the horrific parts of Star Trek, especially when it comes to assault on people, and how that's sometimes it's not even looked at assault, how the victim is mocked. Removing all of that. Jackson Kennedy, great to see you. I'd like to stay, but off to work. Not having to take care of the kid. Enter Worf. Okay, talk to you later, Jackson Kennedy. Thanks for dropping by. Daniel, Hot Topics 40th. Like, hello, Laura. What's up? Well, what's going on, dude? I'm sorry. I'm trying to talk to everybody, brother. Trying to talk to everybody. Calm down. Daniel's Hot Topics. Calm down. Back in August, CBS registered 2 Star Trek titles for shows, Star Trek Reliant and Star Trek Destiny. Which one do you think will be the darker, grittier DS9-like series? Probably both be pretty dark, given where CBS is going now. Destiny will probably be Reliant. Destiny will probably be a little bit upbeat, because I think Destiny is going to be Picard's. Thomas Potts, make a bunch of Wesley holograms and torture them. That is God's work right there. I don't think anyone would ever say that's wrong or bad. But moving back again, you guys get me off so easy. Look at Barclay. Get me off topic so easily. Looking at Reginald Barclay, I think that overall, I like the character. I think that he has a lot of good points to him. I like the fact that he grows. And that seems like something hard, something rare. Something that evolved humans don't go through. One of the reasons Deep Space Nine, I think, has a lot of growth in it. And that's why it was one of the better shows. And I think that the path from Barclay, going from this guy who doesn't do or can't really even operate when talking to other people, to going and almost effectively saving Voyager in a lot of ways. I think that was really awesome. And I think ultimately, Voyager, I think ultimately, uh, Barclay was a great character. And it's too bad we didn't see more of him. And another interesting thing I wanted to note, and I wanted to talk about, and I'll answer this first, and then I'll talk about it. I think that Star Trek Destiny will be for Picard. It's supposed to be a non-Starfleet look at Star Trek, and I think it's going to be about what happened after the Dominion War. When you look, I think that you see the friendship and relationship grow between Deanna Troi and Barclay, and I think that's a really interesting and unique thing. And I like the growth between the two characters. So we first meet Barclay, and Troy's trying to help him out, and of course she sucks at her job because she's never written well. Um, uh, she's never written well as a counselor, and so ultimately they grow into Voyager, where when Barclay is taken advantage of in Voyager and he's used, Deanna Troi just rips into the person that hurts him. And I forget the name of the episode, but this woman had used him to get information. And she said something that really hurt Barclay's feelings. And Deanna was there helping him out. And once she hurts Deanna, once she hurts Barclay and he walks away, you can tell that Deanna just gets pissed. And she verbally destroys the woman. And I think that is a great growth. And it's great growth for both characters, because I don't think Deanna would have done that for him during TNG. But into Voyager, you see the real friendship, the real kinship. I don't think that the relationship would be as strong as the A-Team on TNG, but I think she would do a lot for Barclay. And, Vile Mike says, would have liked Barclay being added to Deep Space Nine. I would have loved to seen him. I would have loved to seen him added as a main cast some way. And I think it's too late for that now, but it would have been awesome. It may not be too late. I'd love for the character to come back. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. And I really, again, enjoy the interactions. And yeah, as you stated, it was Inside Man. I'll take your word for it. I'm not sure. I'm sure it was. But yeah, Troi really goes to bat for him, and I really enjoyed that. And I think it showed growth with Barclay too. It's just a shame we didn't see more of him. Darth Revan, speaking of Troi, do you think her and Riker split, or she is just stationed on Earth? Didn't they get married? I think they were married according to canon, and she stayed on the ship with him, I think. I don't know. I assumed. That's what I assumed after, what was it, Nemesis? Vile Mike talking about wanting to be in Deep Space Nine, and someone said that they didn't think that he would do well with the war. And Vile Mike responds, exactly. See how someone like him handles all the death and killing. I think Barclay would have been interesting, but I think he would have competed with O'Brien. And I don't know that I would have wanted that. I think O'Brien was very well suited, especially being a vet and being the everyman. Barclay would have had rank over him. I just don't think it would have went that well. I really don't. Marinanor says, I'm interested in how Barclay was a good guy who wasn't perfect, a genius, or an uptight perfectionist. Yeah, I forget if Barclay, if this was during the time when Roddenberry was part of TNG, or even if he was alive. But I don't know. I don't know where I was going. I don't know if that was his brainchild or not. Yeah, Riker and Deanna Troi got married. That the Worf getting married thing never worked. It never happened because it was an alternate timeline. It was also very stupid writing. I hate the Deanna Worf thing they tried to put together. That was just stupid in my opinion. Jeff Shapiro says, Barclay in war would have been competent in his job in war. Just don't think that war is a good place for personal problems to get in the way, like tardiness due to hollow addiction. Yeah, I think he would have gotten past him. David Meeks taking shots. For every great NCO, there's a crap lieutenant. I think Battlestar Galactica did a good job showing competent NCOs versus incompetent LTs. You guys should watch that for the realism there. I like that part. Barclay in the war should probably have done wonders for his disposition. Maybe. Roddenberry wasn't a part of TNG by the time season 3 rolled around. Okay. Riker and Troy don't wear rings in the Enterprise finale, do they? Sure, they're married. Yes, Arcantos, they are definitively married. However, they wouldn't be wearing rings in the Enterprise finale because the Enterprise finale shows Deanna Troi and Riker during one of the episodes of TNG. It was supposed to be the mid-season TNG where Riker is trying to hide the cloaking device on the Oberth class ship. And so which is funny because you see an overweight Riker and suits that don't work. But yeah, I mean, that was not when they would have been married. They got married after that. Vile Mike says, we've been talking about his escapism could have been similar to Nog's hollow escapism. That's true. But yeah, so they ultimately... They really screwed the Enterprise cast, by the way. That finale was just horrific. I think that's when they got rid of... what was his name? Berman? Which, was God's work. Though, looking at it now, I kind of wish we had Burnham. It's one of those things, again, this is off topic because you guys get me off topic. You never know what you have until you lose it, And so, I'm looking at the writing for Star Trek Discovery, and I'm like, where's Berman? Where's that lovely chap who really, really did horrific things to Star Trek? He really went out of his way to bastardize the series, but at least it was still Star Trek. Yeah, I mean, you win, life. You made me wish that Berman was still writing Star Trek. Barclay in... we already said that. Barclay in war would be perfect. They just stick him in a hologram and he controls the ships. Yes, that would have worked out well. I'm sure they wouldn't have had any issues with that. I think Barclay would have gotten PTSD early in the war and sent home to work on tech development. Maybe he could be one of the team members to figure out how to beat the Bean. Maybe he was. Maybe that's what happened. The difference is that Nog was using the holosuite as a place to recover from his leg. I mean, yeah, but there's still a holo addiction there, right? So, I don't know. That's just my opinion. But yeah, guys, I mean, I just kind of, we put this out there. Ultimately, I think that Reginald Barclay did pretty well. He was one of the ones that had real character growth. And ultimately, while he was kind of skeezy at the beginning, he became one of the heroes, I think. But yeah. Terry Weaver says, never got an Enterprise. I think that's why I'm less hostile to Discovery. I do not see the tie-in there. Enterprise finale was a forced episode because CBS canceled the series. There are multiple ways to write a finale and not do it that stupidly, in my opinion. I mean, and this is just off the top of my head, but you could just do what they did and not have it end with computer in program. Don't have the Next Generation crew there. Just have that fucking episode. Have that episode. Do the episode that they did and remove all the TNG BS. And seriously, still kill off Trip. Still kill somebody off. Make it hard fought. And just... The TNG was added on and unnecessary. They could have done that episode. Shadow Wolf, the episode where Deanna stands up for Barclay, to me, it seemed like she felt sorry for him, like how a cool kid sticks up for a non-cool kid because they are pathetic. Now, I have to disagree, Shadow Wolf. I would encourage you I have to disagree. I think that when you watch the episode, that you can see that she's there to help out Barclay, that she likes Barclay, and that when and that she's interested. She wants this to come through, but then she doesn't get pissed until Barclay is hurt. And it's not cool kid thing to me. It really comes off like she cares about Barclay and someone just hurt someone she considers to be a friend. Now, that's my interpretation of the scene. Yours could be different. But honestly, that's the way I look at it. But yeah. Yup. I could look it up, but I'll ask anyway. Would one of these new series maybe make new episodes as each of the series? Maybe do some Enterprise or DS9 episodes? I don't think they're going to do that. They maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Terry Weaver coming back saying they already made a Trek. I didn't feel like it was Trek, so Discovery, while again not Trek, less of a shock to me. Okay. Enterprise, here's my thing. Enterprise sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't like some of the writing. It makes humanity look like idiots. That said, it still always felt like Trek. I've never said, and again, I'm not saying that Discovery isn't Trek, but Enterprise felt like nostalgic Trek. It still felt like the Trek we've seen. Discovery doesn't feel anything like the Trek we've seen. It can still be Trek. It can still be Star Trek. It's just, it's something new and something definitely off, Every episode of Trek that involves evolution seems like it was written with a creationist misunderstanding of evolution. I agree with that, Eric the Bat. I think that, yes, absolutely. I don't think that I don't know that they did that on purpose or that they're creationists or anything. I think that they look at what pop culture says evolution is and then just go with that. Because especially in Voyager. Enterprise does it too, but Voyager for sure. There's no fucking... Voyager... I don't know that Voyager is worse because of the episode with Phlox. But Voyager is going to tell us that we're going to turn into salamanders with no way to know or predict that and no understanding of how long-term evolution works. You can't predict what evolution is going to do to humanity because we don't know what pressures are going to be placed on humans. And that's ultimately what pushes forward. And so, yeah, it's just ridiculous. It is absolutely. But anyway, I think we're going to be ending pretty shortly. Yep. I think that we will go along. And let's not get too much into the argument of creationism. So let me back up because I don't necessarily want to get too much into the argument of creationism versus evolution. If you're a creationist, if you believe in young Earth creation or even old Earth creation, or if you just believe in creationism overall, that's fine and that's great. Everyone can believe what they want to believe. But a lot of the more vocal creationists, a lot of the more popular creationists don't have an understanding of how evolution actually works. I think most of them are being dishonest, but they push. Talk to you later, 100% American Buffalo. They don't do any favors for how evolution works. And so I again, if you're a creationist, I don't care. That's fine. You may actually be right. But I would suggest that anyone who doesn't believe evolution is real to research and at least understand what evolution is. And to Arcanto's point, not all creationists are necessarily against evolution. They sometimes say God introduced those mutations or whatever. And that is, when I talked about religion and when I was heavily religious, that was what I was a big fan of as well. I don't think that evolution... Why are we getting into this? I don't think that evolution necessarily disproves a God or even creation. If I was a God and I was going to create a world the way that the world is currently created, I would create evolution as a mechanism to have that world run without me having to be there, without me having to be a part of it. Now, maybe I would through miracles and whatnot, but ultimately, I think evolution doesn't disprove creationism nor disprove a God. I don't even know why the hell we're getting into this, because I misspoke. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But yeah, I mean, whatever you guys want to believe, I believe. I don't care. And with that, I think we're going to probably end it there. Guys, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, next breakdown, maybe we'll just talk all about Threshold and how awesome Threshold was, because that'll be a lot of fun, right? But I'm going to see you guys on the next Lore Reloaded.